almost to feel like to ask for help is weakness. I'm saying this from experience, so I'm not picking on nobody. I'm talking to me.
All right.
Looking at asking for help sometimes as a sign of weakness or a sign of incompetence for that matter, right? If I have to ask about this, is because obviously I don't know no better. Obviously I don't know, right? And this person I'm asking is probably gonna be like, oh, this guy's dumb. Why? So then I may just not ask that question, or I just may not say anything. I may just go on Chat GPT and try to figure it out myself, right?
The information is there. The history of it is there. The patterns are there. Like it's all there. The brotherhood is there. You gotta be willing to go and seek it out.
Brotherhood is collapsing a little bit. You know, just off the top of your head, when you hear that statement, brotherhood is collapsing or has collapsed, what comes to mind for you?
Just lack of networks, lack of community, people feeling a need to isolate themselves, people not I would say at the heart of it is probably not wanting to be held accountable. Because if you have like a good community, if you've got good brotherhood, definitely in the brotherhood, like you're going to be held accountable for your things, you know what I'm saying? And that's, not to say like I can't hold you accountable if I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So when people be like, oh, how come you never said blah, like when bro was out here cheating, probably because I ain't know. You know what I'm saying? Like he wasn't cheating in front of me. He wasn't beating you in front of me. So I can't, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't know that part. But if I'm aware of it, then I can, that's not the right choice. Come on, man. That's, you need to go home to your wife. Like, this is temporary, that's get out your flesh. Like, you know what I'm saying? We will talk to each other that way if we're aware. You know what I'm saying? So like the idea of a person not desiring community, not being a part of a community tells me that they're ducking accountability in some regard. My male and female friends are like, hold me to the fire and uphold the expectations and all that. So I just, it ain't, this ain't that.
It's a fairly deep topic, we'll see where we go. But yeah, everybody get your drinks together, get ready to pour a glass and talk a little bit of trash. We're talking about brotherhood and its apparent collapse. Let's go up to it.
I want you to understand is that men aren't just lonely. Brotherhood has collapsed. Brotherhood, as you know, it has collapsed in on itself and nobody told them. Not because men got weaker, not because women changed, not because feelings got soft. Brotherhood died because the system buried it and taught men to perform masculinity instead of experience it. Because men weren't supposed to live life solo. We know this. Men weren't supposed to do that. Men were supposed to have each other though. Not in competition, not in silence, not in dominance, but in witness. In witness. Brotherhood used to mean you weren't grieving alone. You weren't scared alone. You weren't raising your kids alone. You weren't carrying the weight of being a man alone. Right? I'm just saying it. Men were supposed to grow with mirrors and not masks. And when those mirrors disappear, you didn't just lose your friends, you lost yourself. It's a fact, right? The collapse of brotherhood, just so you really get it, the collapse of brotherhood did not make men weak. I am not saying that. It did make them unmirrored. And an unmirrored man will disappear in plain sight. I promise. That's the real epidemic right there in your face. Because a man with no brotherhood has no emotional outlet, no identity formation, no accountability without shame, no place to confess, no place to collapse, no place to be seen. So he turns every struggle inward until it becomes numbness, performance, or rage. That's all he has left. Not because he's dangerous, but because he's unwitnessed. He's unwitnessed. Nobody spots him. And the system loves unwitnessed men. Because guess what unwitnessed men are? Easy to control. Easy to radicalize. Easy to exhaust. Easy to shame. Easy to distract. Easy to turn against women. And easy to turn against themselves. I'm telling you, they come with the whole package. Because a man without brotherhood will mistake isolation for identity and performance for strength. I'm going to just tell you again. A man without brotherhood will mistake isolation for identity and performance for strength. That's the trap right there, because patriarchy didn't fail men. It starved them and then rewarded them for having bones only. Right? Bones only. It taught men to distrust the only people who could have taught them how to be human. Each other. Right? I'm just being honest. So it replaced brotherhood with competition, hierarchy, silence, shame, the real man stands alone lie, and then handed women the job description of being every man's therapist, mirror, mother, and emotional system. It did. Right? It told them be everything because it required a man to be nothing. That's what it was. Not because women ever changed, though. I don't want you to get stuck on that. It's because men had no men to fall back on. Nobody had your back. And you know that. Nobody was there for you. So because of that, I want you to know that men are not lonely because they don't have women. Men are lonely because they don't have men. That's the saddest part of the whole story. They miss something they never had. They feel nostalgic for a bond that was stolen before they were born. And that ache, that hollowness, that quiet panic that forms under you, that is never weakness. I won't let you call yourself weak here. It's actually the ghost of Brotherhood calling your name back home. So the collapse of Brotherhood was never a man's failure. It wasn't, but it was the system strategy. It was the system strategy. And on it, in its return, that's on us. Right? If we want Brotherhood back, it really is going to be on us. Because men don't need to be rescued. Men do need to be reunited. Men need to be reunited. And the world will never heal until Brotherhood does.
We're sick people. We're working for the future, because working for the present, we ain't making no progress.
All right. So you see the question in the comments. Do you believe Brotherhood is collapsing, and why? That's the question in the comments, guys. Do you believe that Brotherhood is collapsing, and if so, why? And if you don't believe it's collapsing, why not? I want to know that too. I think Kev brought up a great point about isolation, and the brother in the video also talked about men and I don't want to say living in isolation, but that's kind of what it ends up boiling down to, the want or need to do it alone, to go it alone, to almost to feel like to ask for help is weakness. I'm saying this from experience, so I'm not picking on nobody. I'm talking to me. All right. But looking at asking for help sometimes as a sign of weakness or a sign of incompetence, for that matter, right? If I have to ask about this, is because obviously I don't know no better. Obviously I don't know, right? And this person I'm asking is probably gonna be like, oh, this guy's dumb, right? So then I may just not ask that question, or I just may not say anything. I may just go on ChatGPT and try to figure it out myself, right? Instead of leaning on my brothers or finding a core group of men, which I think a church is a great place for that personally, but a core group of men that you can rely on, that you can talk things out with, a group of men that'll tell you, like you were saying before the break in the last segment, a group of men that'll tell you when you're tripping, that'll tell you when you're wilding out, right? That'll tell you, hey man, we don't condone that type of behavior, right? We talk a lot of trash, but we ain't here for this kind of behavior. That's wrong. You shouldn't do that, right? And so I think because of that ideal self-made man image, I'm gonna do this on my own. I think that sometimes causes men to isolate, and as a result, we don't lean into our superpower, which is leaning on the brotherhood of another man who's going through this, who maybe navigated this a little bit further, been down the road a little bit. Talk the elders, right? The older people, the uncles, the OGs, right? We don't value them as much. I don't think we don't talk to them as much, and as a result, we don't lean on each other as much. So
and I'll say I'm one of the ones who will isolate, who will shut down, and I'm in therapy, and therapy is fantastic, and I thank God every day for therapy, because I also know like how bad it would be if I were not in therapy. However, it's continued therapy, because every answer is not there, and new problems surface from time to time, and like some parts of therapy help to cure things, and some parts of therapy help to manage things. You know what I'm saying? So like I operate in that way based on my therapy, but I know that I can isolate when things get tough, and it's like there's not one layer to the problem. I think a lot of times for us, I don't want to speak for us, so I'll say for me, one of the first thoughts that comes to my mind when I consider other people is like, everybody's got their own issues. So like, I don't want to then create another problem for people who are already dealing with their own stuff. So, you internalize it. And then there's another side which deals with like your past traumas and your past issues. Well, the last time I went to ask for help from, somebody, like next thing I know, my business is all in the street. Or, like, I told them, hey, I'm a like, if I'm borrowing money, all right, I'm gonna pay you back as soon as I can. The next day they like, hey, you got my money. Like, did you, like, if I didn't have it the day that I asked you, you think I'm gonna have it the very next day? Like, so, now you creating a stress connected to whatever when I haven't forgotten about you. Like, because even having to get the help from you, now I'm thinking about having to pay you back. So like that's an added layer. So you harassing me in the process is not okay. Which is not the same as like, I asked to borrow money and a month later you see me in a brand new whatever and taking trips to whatever and you still ain't got your money. That's a different beast. But like, if I'm still trying to pull it together, then I'm working through it. So like, we've seen those scenarios where like people will hold your past against you, hold stuff over your head, use the things you shared in confidence against you when they get upset. And that is the kind of thing that makes you retreat and makes you want to internalize and makes you isolate yourself from people, because sometimes it feels safer to keep it to yourself than to share with people. So, it's a lot of layers that go into it. But to like answer your actual question, I don't believe that brotherhood is fleeting. I don't think we're losing these, these networks or these connections. Like, these things are not going anywhere. I think, now more than ever, we have access to, or not that there wasn't access before. Now it's more acceptable to go to therapy. It's more acceptable to ask for help. Those things are there. People just aren't tapping into the resources. And, I say all the time, Google is your friend. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've learned to change filters in my cars from YouTube videos. I've learned to change my own wiper. Like, once I figured out how many things I could do on my own to save money and whatever, I just started going to YouTube. I learned to tie a bow tie because of YouTube videos. Like, the information is there, you know what I'm saying? And it's really at your fingertips because our phones, our computers, our iPads, our laptops are always around us. They're always in our hands. People aren't going and seeking out the information. They said it as a quote, but then somebody put it in a song. You want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a book, because people don't read. People don't tap into their resources. We had a set of Encyclopedia Britannicas in the house, and you had to flip pages and find your information. You had to go research that stuff. So the information is there. The history of it is there. The patterns are there. It's all there. The brotherhood is there. You gotta be willing to go and seek it out. You know what I'm saying? And some people will truly come to you and check on you and all of that, but you have to be an active participant in your healing. You got to be an active participant in your accountability. You got to be an active participant in your own growth. And if you're not willing to participate, you won't see change. You won't see much change. People around you won't see the change. And that's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, yeah, that's ultimately what it boils down to. I think a big barrier for a lot of people, and even for myself, is, as you mentioned earlier, past history, right? There's a history of trauma, or a history of, I trusted this person or these people, and dirt got thrown on my name, got taken advantage of, lost money, whatever, right? Turncoats, you know what I mean? Let me talk about pouring into people that don't deserve it, right? What is your thoughts? You're going to therapy. What are your thoughts on getting past the past trauma of, I've trusted people who I thought had my back. There was evidence that they had my back. We had years of experience to show that they had my back, but then they turned, right? What is your advice for getting past that and getting back to a point of, trusting again?
How honest you want me to be?
We live.